Let's start this thing. Hello. Good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have your company. If you're just logging in right now, I thought the adverts are still running. There's a couple of minutes for the adverts. I'm going to say, I want people to come into the chat and say good morning. We ain't done this for a little while. There's a reason why we ain't done this for a little while, because I'm a perfectionist, and like I said, I want to do things to the point that is everything's like on full cylinders. If it ain't full cylinders, I don't really like to do it. You understand what I'm saying? And I have to respect that people are busy and they've got their lives to lead, and we can't always get an opportunity to do that. So when we get opportunity to do a live, we always will do our best to do a live. Before we start, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in our Denise. Denise in the building.
1 second. Come quickly, Kens. Come on.
Denise is dark skin. Oh, proper mummy now. All right. Come, McKenz.
No, he wasn't suitably dressed, and he was coming by.
I'm feeling the headgear. I'm feeling the outfit.
It's all about the blue.
Do you know what? From I saw you, I thought of do you know Boomerang, the film Boomerang?
Yeah.
There's a scene with John Witherspoon, and he said, coordinate. Everybody must coordinate. Denise is coordinating today.
I've even got some blue earrings, but I couldn't find the other one. So anyway, here I am.
Are you one of those women who literally do you have, like, if you outfit, do you have your nails and your toenails the same as well?
Toes. I'm not a nail person because I do a lot of cooking and I don't like wearing gloves. Yeah, but my toenails, definitely.
Your toenails are on point, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, okay then. All right, we're going to start in a minute, yeah? But I just want let's come in early, and just see each other before we continue the show. I'm looking forward to talking to our guests, because the DEI, I asked a few people what they thought DEI was, and the answers I got back, I'm like, raw. If you was my phone a friend of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I would have lost the money.
I like it.
Before voice in my head, I just want to ask you: have you got the link? Type it in the private chat if you haven't got it. Because I wanted. If you haven't got it, then what I'll have to do, I'll have to play it at some point. Because there's a. Do you watch The Simpsons?
No, I used to when it first came. No, I don't, love. No.
There's a bit.
I'm not anti-Simpsons. I wouldn't let you watch it. So, apparently, when he was younger, I wouldn't let him watch. I didn't let him watch it. Okay.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are currently live right now. We are streaming live. If you want that link, give us a text 07464019433, ladies and gentlemen. 07464019433. Before we actually, have you got our police report ready?
I have.
That's all good. That's good to know. Before we actually start that, I want to start off with something fun, and I want to end off the first part of after the interview. I want to end it with fun. We have fun anyway, but I want to, but for the listeners who ain't listening, who ain't watching right now, I asked our Denise literally, like, I want to know from the listeners and the people who are currently on the stream if you used to watch Simpsons, right? And the reason why I'm saying that, because there was in early days, I don't know if he still does it now, my voice in my head could probably tell me, Bart Simpson used to wind up the bar owner. I forget his name now. What's his name? The bar owner, all right? Mo, that's right. He used to wind up Mo, yeah? And and Mo used to call out people's names. And it was, you know what? I always say, I've got a guilty pleasures. I laugh at silly things, yeah? I laugh at silly things. So for me, like, some people might not. Like, I find this hilarious, right? So you imagine, right? This is a Congress, like a town meeting with a local councillor meeting, right? And you know, when the council, they call up people's names to have their talk about here and all that. So listen to this brother here. This is what one of the councillors called that, the names he was calling that to make speeches. I can't believe this guy never clocked on. All right, let's play this. Listen to this.
You do not pass this policy in Virginia.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas. We do appreciate you. Phil McCracken. Phil McCracken. Souk Mahidik. Luke Mahidik. Ophelia McHawk. Ophelia McHawk. Eileen Dover. Eileen Dover. Don Kiddick. Don Kiddick. Wayne Kerr. Wayne Kerr.
I know Wayne Kerr. I know a few Wayne Kerrs.
There was a. Do you know what makes me laugh at those things? With the brother's like, Phil McCracken. Phil McCracken. Phil McCracken. I tell you, it's little things they make me laugh, man. That cracks me up.
It's funny though. It's funny though how different things, because there's some things that I think are absolutely hilarious, and you know some people just look at you like, what? Do you ever get that where you think something's really funny? Like today, I guarantee that people have heard that and they're thinking to themselves, "What's Quincy talking about?" What? I guarantee. In the chat, I guarantee there's some people who'd be like, "What's he talking about?"
I know. That's just my sense of humor. That's my my proper East End sense of humor. Lower class sense of humor. I ain't gonna lie to you. Little things like that. I used to do the same thing at work.
Really?
I used to do work. I used to get the tannoy. When I used to work in Victoria, I used to get the tannoy.
And do what?
And I used to call that. In names like black names. I say, "Can I speak to Mr. R. Hall, please, Mr. R. Hall?"
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
And when I used to work in a care home, yeah, if the children went missing, right, you had to call there was like a number you called, yeah, and you had to write down when you called them, who you spoke to, the time you spoke, yeah. So when the Ofsted came, they've got a record of of like when the child went missing and how it was logged. So before Ofsted came, obviously the managers and supervisors, they basically used to go through all of the book work in it. Right? Yeah. They knew when I was on shift because when I used to call the police.
Oh my gosh!
I log in a call, 02 hours. Spoke to the bully then. I say every other name for police apart from police. Yeah.
Bully, you know.
The bully them. I put Popo. I used to put Popo.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Beast. I used to put every police. I didn't put pigs because that was too obvious.
Yeah.
But what got me is when one of the children went missing, yeah. Mm-hmm. And there was like an Eastern European lady there, and she said the child hasn't come back yet. So the manager said, "Who was the last person who logged it in?" She said, "Oh, it was Quincy." Yeah. She said, "Who did he speak to?" I signed my name. I didn't. You're there for like hours, isn't it? I was bored. I signed my name. She was Quincy. She said, "Who did he speak to?" And she went, "Mr. T. Babylon." She done it with the accent as well. T. Babylon. I was like, and the woman was looking at her like, T. And I'm looking at the woman now, I'm laughing.
You're terrible.
Yeah. T was for ver, by the way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we always run over time when it comes to a police report. So, ladies and gentlemen, voice in my head. What's cutting out with this white man? What's going on? It's our police report with our Denise. Let's play the music. And she's back, ladies and gentlemen. Aunt Denise, aka India Irie.
Don't do it.
I'm saying you right now, listeners, you need to come across to the stream and just look at how Denise looks today. She's representing today to the point, I swear to God, she's trying to flirt with Ibrahim Traore.
Now that would be a story, but he's a bit too young for me. He's only 35. But if he were 10 years older, well, I would definitely be having that convo.
He's 37.
37, yeah. Well, if he was 10 years old, he's too young.
He's a bit young, yeah. He's a bit
young. He's young.
All right, what you got for us today, sis?
Okay, so today we've got a guest on later today from Derby. Beverly Stewart's coming on from Open Doors, and it was quite interesting. We never really focus, I don't think, in my little city about the things that the police do, not really deeply, because the police don't really work with us. They just do what they do. And so I thought that I would enlighten people just from Derby with one particular case, because there are cases that you never ever hear about at all. And so for police report folks in Derby that are listening, because there are a few people who have joined in today, it's just something that we do to enlighten communities, and to make sure that they are aware of the misconduct that some of the police officers are actually doing within their community, and also to give you confidence that you should really try, if you've got a problem with the police, they've done some wrong to you or your family or whatever, that you do pursue it. So that's why we do the police report. So this is just really for people who've never actually been in here before, and I can see there are a few people on my phone who have never definitely been here before. So welcome and thanks for joining us.
Come off the phone and go into the chat.
Yeah, that's the important thing. That's what you should be doing. Yes.
Come off Denise's phone and go into the chat room and subscribe to the channel, and you can watch the previous police reports. I've got to say this for you as your Derbyites, you know what I mean? It's like there's not a lot of things goes on in Derby from a criminal perspective. You're not really known for that kind. Not in a minute.
Well, just so really quickly, there was something that happened to last week. There was a guy that was killed in the bank, in Derby. And that's still like, it's so different from London, because when I can only think back to one particular murder case or one murder case in particular, which is like 15 years old, 16 years ago, and it's still discussed today. It's still discussed today. So there are things that happen in our communities that we don't necessarily hear about, but when we do, it lasts for a very long time, because it is a very quiet and safe place to live, I suppose, really, in that respect.
Now, when I've gone to Derby, it's been blessed. You know what I mean? I've been there at night times, and it's calm. It's calm.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you get your average young people like milling around, but they're not like that bad. You feel intimidated or. You know what I mean? That you walk the other side of the street. You know what I mean? You don't feel like that.
Of course.
So someone got killed in the bank. Is what we're talking about?
Yes. No. Because there's nothing for me to report apart from is a well-known person. That's not the story. But I'm just saying it's very rare that these things happen. And apart from that, we don't really talk about the things, the sort of negative things about what the police get up to, shall we say. So anyway, let me start. So I'm going to start with a case that, again, I had to really dig deep to find out where was it actually discussed or shared. And it was about a police officer called this guy. Oh, hang on a second. Let's see. Where's my mouse gone? Right. This was a former constable, Luke Walton, from Derbyshire Police.
Okay.
And he had been out with he was still a student at the time with some student officers in Chesterfield. And, they'd been out for a night out. And he got a phone call, which he went into a toilet to take. When he came out, he was heard using the N-word, and the N-word with the word shit at the end of it. So he joined all the officers at a table, and he continued with this type of conversation. Remember, this guy was still in training, but near the end of his training. And so it continued. He went outside. When they left there, he was heading towards the train station, and he saw a female who was in distress. And he asked the male person that she was with whether he'd actually abused her. And he said no, because that's, this is my daughter. So, and he then said, look, I'm just going to try and sort you out. He used those sort of words. It was all recorded on his on somebody's phone. Obviously, he was off duty, so he didn't have his camera on. But that's what was recorded. And there was another situation a bit later on in the same night. And he basically was just really, and it wasn't alcohol. That was the point. He wasn't drunk because he doesn't drink. He was just being himself, thinking, perhaps I'm out with the lads. I can be who I want to be. And so he did what he did. And so the officers, the fellow students, they reported him, but it took a long time because he was actually made into a police officer. This is what the issue is. He was actually made into a police officer, did the passing out, etc., etc. And it was only afterwards when they started really pursuing these cases that it was pulled up, and there was still evidence there about it. So they eventually took it to the disciplinary hearing, misconduct hearing, and he lost his job. Yeah. So I mean, he really was on it. There was another female officer there too, also in training, and he used really bad language to her about the way that she was dressed. And again, this was an alcohol fueled. So there are police officers, folks, in Derby, that have, they definitely cause concern. And I was looking at the statistics for Derby, and we never seem to hear it. But 99% of the cases actually go up for misconduct. They are found guilty. So not many people recognize that. And I didn't even realize myself, because I seem to focus a lot on what's happening in London. I didn't realize that there were so many cases that had been proven, found guilty. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys. So that was one particular case. There was another one of recent, this gentleman, his name is Dante Graham Thomas. Now, Dante, unfortunately, this is a very recent one. His hearing was only last month, at the end of last month. So they've only just shared all the documentation about his case. Unfortunately, he found himself, you may have heard of a website called Grindr.
I've never heard of it. Go on.
So Grindr is a website that gay men use. And he'd met somebody on the website Grindr, and he obviously went out with this person. And whilst he was out, he must have used illegal drugs. Now, when he went back to work the following day or 2 days later, a random drugs test was done on a few of his colleagues, including him. And they found that he had amphetamines and other substances in his system. He tried to say initially that it was administered to him. He thought it was just a strong alcoholic drink, some words to that effect. But it's been proven that he was quite aware that he was taking drugs, and then engaged in activities as a result of the drugs that was used. So it was a urine test. It was a urine test that they found it. So yeah, you know, people just need to, in the police force, I just think people need to recognize that these things really do happen, that a police person is a normal person, but we do set them at a higher bar in terms of the standards, don't we? And unfortunately, the statistics are showing continuously that there are more and more sort of rogue type officers that are in the force. And yeah, it's concerning, because these are the people that will be assisting you if you were in a situation. But if they're under the influence of...
Is that in there?
Sorry?
Is that the brother there?
No, that's that's a different one, which I'm going to try and find. So that was that one. That one there is a really terrible case, and I'm just trying to see. That's
so the officer went on the Grindr app. Met someone.
Yeah.
Was took drugs.
Yeah.
Both of them. He had a random drug test.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously found in his system.
Yeah.
And now it's currently going through.
No, it's John. He's fired.
He's fired.
No, I'm only giving the outcome, the actual outcome of the case.
And he was fired on the basis of the drug use.
So because he was using the drugs, and because he had actually come back into work. Yeah, remember, he's come to work with the drugs in his system to try and operate as normal. And that really was not going to, that really wasn't going to happen, was it? So he was putting anybody he was working with, he was putting them at risk. So they got rid of him. They got rid of him as well.
Just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 3 more minutes before we go to an ad break. We've got a couple. I think Denise got. You got how many more?
No, I've got one more, which I'm trying to find.
We've got one more before. So if you're going to continue the stream, so when it is on the adverts on 99.8, please come across to the YouTube channel. If you want the link, feel free to holler at your boy 0746401943, and I will kindly send that link over to you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, if you want that link, so you can not only listen to us, but you can watch us look at our boat races. Right, what else have you got, Denise?
Yeah, we're just trying to find this last one. This one is this is a Derbyshire case that really shocked me.
Is that the image that you just sent us?
Yeah.
Put that image up, please, work in my head, please.
Yeah. Because what happens, we do often get cases where we actually get the full, when I get the full report, I actually get details of the things that this person has done.
PC Matthew Shaw.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's just okay. So this guy got 14 years, for offences, including involving young children. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And the horrifying thing about this one, was that we've got we have a new swimming pool in Derby, and he's been there. Gosh, he's been there filming children in their in their teaching lessons. Yeah. So he was first arrested when a 10-year-old girl noticed a GoPro filming while she was actually in a changing room at a leisure centre. This wasn't in Derby, but in Sutton Ashfield, which is Nottinghamshire. Yeah. The police, and it went from there. The police found 25 recordings of children in changing rooms, yeah, and at various swimming places around the East Midlands, yeah. He spoke to 7 girls aged between...
We're going for a break there, Jim, and come across to the live, and we continue the police report and amongst other stuff, and I guess is the other side. Go on, Denise.
Yeah, so he was. So we had 7 girls aged between 11 and 16 on Snapchat that he was talking to, introducing himself as the brother of one of the girls. You know, he named himself as Matt. Yeah, Matthew. He then actually went as far as zooming into things where there were young children in Snapchat rooms. So he was dealing with people in New Jersey and Australia. And I'm not going to go into the detail because it's just so horrifying, but it's just the fact that there's a Derbyshire link. But he actually tried to entice a young girl to do something with an animal. Yeah. And the judge was so incensed by it. I mean, sometimes they're quite careful with things they say, even on sentencing. But he, this one, the judge just basically just threw it all at him in terms about his disgust, etc., etc. Whilst he was on bail, he actually went to Centre Parks. There's one in Sherwood Forest, which is Nottinghamshire. Yeah. He jumped over a fence. Yeah, and used a discarded like wristband to access the changing rooms, so he could do it again, continue the same things. It's just like unreal. So he's on bail. He's lucky he got bail, but he's still during that bail time actually decided that he would still continue with this behavior. So anyway, he's got 14 years, which is just it's a life sentence he's got, but it's not a So that was the outcome for that particular case. But if it wasn't for this young girl who her parents said that, they taught her, if you see anything like that, you must report it. And she told her parents, and they were able to find out and discover that it was him, and it went from there. So there are some really, go on.
You know what I find amazing, right? So have you seen the clips of the paedophile hunters, like the people who go around and they trap groomers or I don't know, not groomers, no, but they're basically, I don't know if they're opportunities, but they're nonsense basically. And when they get caught, right, it's like they know they know what they're doing. Because when people talk about it's an illness, right, but an illness to the point that when you get caught, it's that their body language, the fact that they recognize what they're doing, but they still do it.
Yeah. Definitely. You can. It's terrible. It really, really is. Because often with those paedophile ones, when they do find them, you can see from, like you said, you can see from their body language. They've been caught. They know they've been caught. Bang out. But it's just terrible because it happens, and we know these things happen. But to think, it happens with the police, that is the scary part. That is the scary part, The voice in our head said Grindr is for the LGBT. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't look. I just thought it was for gay men. But okay, fair enough. It's for, So
that is our police report. Is our guest in the building yet? Voice in my head, but she's not.
She's not there.
No, she's not here yet.
What time is it? Is it 11:30? Let me just give her a quick tinkle.
Fine, but while you're doing that, Denise, I just want to ask you, and the listeners, this is for the women, right? For the viewers, this is for the women viewers. Denise, do you know, right, when a man is checking you out? Can you?
Kind of, yeah.
Women know, like, a guy's clocked them.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, is it by obviously blatant looking? But what is, when you recognize that a guy is looking at you? What is, like? How do you react? Does it depend if the guy's good looking or not? What's your reaction normally? Go on.
My reaction is it depends. Looks, of course, has got to do with it. If they look like they could be fun, of course, it happens. It happens. You're on the tube, you're on a bus. Yeah, you do. I'm not that person. I definitely don't do this. I definitely don't do that. Who do you think you're looking at, or just give people bad looks? I just say hi. I say hi.
I mean, and it ain't like look acting in the way that you're going to flirt back, but there's obviously, if someone is looking at you or someone clocks you, you're going to react a certain way. You know what I mean? So look, voice in my head, I sent you a clip. Could you play this clip? Right, this is a young lady that I've got in contact with, and hopefully she'll be coming to the country to do some comedy. I've got some mutual friends of hers as well. I just want to know, for the women in the chat, and in general, I want to know, how do you react, ladies and gentlemen? How do you react when a man is clocking you? Do you do this? Voice of it, have you got it? Because it's hilarious. It is because I will openly, honestly say, a man. Men don't know when women are clocking them. Women, don't get me wrong, women do clock. When a woman looks at a man and fancies a man, they do look. But there's something about women, they do it in such a way that a man would never know. Like, I would never know that a woman's looking at me. Is it because I can't see anyway, or I'm just stupid? The guest is here. Oh shit! No, that's all right. See, can I send the other link? Send the other link here. Send the other link. Send the other link. All right, voice in my head. Have you got that clip by any chance? Yeah, I feel that. I want before we bring in our guest, I want people to actually see this clip, and I want to know how true is this. And like, you're gonna have to watch it to see her reaction. She does it very, very good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Does it very, very good. You know what I mean? I'm a joker. Why am I a joker? I don't know. Men don't know. Men can't tell. Denise, do you think men can tell when a woman clocks them? You're on mute, Denise. All right, here's the clip.
I think they can. Interesting, right. Interesting genes.
Tell me if you can, yeah. Tell me if you can identify with this.
I'm single, right? And I live near Hollywood. And I be trying to date, and in Hollywood, I'm a fat. But out here, out here, y'all trying to marry me in a Popeyes. I like it out here. Oh, I get so much attention. Oh, I don't know what to do with myself out here. I like it out here. These were the gangsters that try to change their life be at. I like it out here. They work corporate jobs now, but when they see a good-looking woman, they turn into a gangster. Like, hey, damn. What's up? Me and Mika got here early. We decided, I was like, girl, I'm hungry. We said, what you want to get? So let's run into Popeyes real quick, because I love Popeyes red beans and rice. And we get to the goddamn Popeyes, and they have on like leggings and a little crop top. And I get to the Popeyes, and this dude, he mid-order his food. Mid. Yeah, let me get a, let me get a 3-piece dark. And the goddamn cashier with an attitude. And what kind of size would you like? Like, there's other people behind you. Like, can you hurry? And I walk in and the little thing go ding. And he in mid-order. He shit was you my side shit. Let me get a Damn. Let me get a And the crazy thing is, women, we always try to act like we don't see the man. We see you. We be standing on the sideline. He start ordering shit that wasn't on the menu. Let me get a Whopper with cheese. And my fat ass, oh my God, I love they got that here. I love Ontario.
Yeah, she's funny. Right, so she's in the building, right? So look, the young lady, have you sent her the new link?
Yeah, she's there. If she's in the building, she's there, isn't she?
No, she's in the chat still. Tell her to come out.
I told her to come out of the chat.
Come out of that chat and press the other link. So women, I want to know, yeah, for those women who are in the chat right now, yeah, is that how you act? Is that how you act for real? Do you really act like that? When do you clock men looking at you? When do you clock us? Yeah. Do we, as men, do we make it that obvious that we like, oh, you grabbed our attentions? Do we do that? Holla at your boy. Yeah. Our guest is going to be coming on very, very soon. We're going to be talking about.
That's what I sent to you. Hang on.
All right. Just take Denise off, and just put her on blank for a minute. Welcome back after the break, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, this is yours truly, Cockney Prince Quincy. We're here to the hours of 1 o'clock this afternoon. This is the Quincy's Comedy Lounge radio program. I am joined by our Denise. We are waiting for our guest who's going to be coming on. She's in the building, but she's in the wrong building. She's gone next door. She hasn't gone to like the main door. She's gone around the back door. So as soon as she comes on, her name is Barbara Stewart. She is a lady.
She's such a Beverly, not a Barbara.
Beverly. Sorry, Beverly.
She's hopefully just coming in now. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully.
Her name is Beverly Stewart, and she works in DEI. And I suppose I want to ask listeners as well, listeners and viewers, when you hear the word DEI, like what comes to mind? Because when Denise asked me, what how many answers did I give you? Or did I long-winded thing? Was it long-winded? Denise?
No, it wasn't. But you didn't. But no, it wasn't long-winded. It wasn't long-winded. But most people, when they think about DEI, they think about race.
Mm.
That's what most people think about. It's race. Is she there?
Should we? Voice in my head will let us know when she's in the
Okay,
room.
cool. Yeah. So most people think about race, and they forget that it involves lots of other things too, people with disabilities, everything that's under that framework of the Equalities Act 2010, they fall into that. But a lot of people think about race, your conversation with me would suggest that you, in terms of how you think of it, race is a bigger element, I think. Yeah.
I came with an answer. Yeah, I thought it was just race, but obviously Denise in the moment, and I guess will let us know exactly what it's about, or elaborate more about DEI and why we're speaking about it today, because it is something which we recognize is happening in America right now, how the eradication of DEI, which is costing a lot of people jobs, and as we know what happens in America happens over here in the UK. You know what I mean? When they catch a cold, we get it as well. So look, I want to know on the real, before our guest is coming, we're just waiting for our guest to come in. 074640019. I want to know from you, the listeners, yeah, and the viewers. I've got a couple of answers, a couple of people tapped in. Women, when you recognize a guy is looking at you, how do you react to that? Does it depend on how the guy looks at you? If he makes you feel uncomfortable, obviously you're going to give an uncomfortable reaction. But the clip we just played before the ad break, or during the ad break, it was a young lady who was basically said that this guy was clocked her at Popeyes, and he messed up his whole menu, what he was about to order, as he kept on looking at the young lady. Yeah, to the point. I would go as far as to say, as a man, most men don't know when a woman is interested. We don't know. I mean, I ain't got a clue. I don't know. The woman's literally got to be on top of me for me to be, oh, you like me? I don't read signs. I don't read signs. Real talk, I don't read signs. You can look at me as much as you want, people. You can shake your head while you're listening to me. I do not read signs.
Are you for real?
You got to literally have my balls in your hand. You got to literally cut my balls. Oh, you interested, are you?
I am surprised.
And even then, I don't take it for granted, yeah, because you might turn around and say, "No, just measure them up, just stress relief." You got here. Dion says that, well, yes, we act coy. What does coy mean? What do you mean you act coy? You act coy. I don't usually notice as too busy enjoying myself. Usually it's my friends that get those looks. You're right, Phil. All right, really. You I think if I understood what coy was, I think that's it there. That's it there. If I understood what coy is. Right, she should be in the building now. Anyway, look, 0746440. She's in there. She's in the building. All right, let's bring her on. Let's bring it. Ladies and gentlemen, Beverly Stewart is in the building. She works for DI. Is going to put on the screen. Is going to put the job title she does and so forth and so forth. Let's bring her in. You're on mute, Denise. Here she is. Bev.
Can you hear me?
You know what? I love talking. Yeah, I can hear you.
Let's talk to Derby people.
No. It's when I recognize technology, because I'm in that bracket as well. Technology and people, mature people. Do you know you get the uncle at the christening of the wedding when they do a speech and the mic is never near them out?
You make me feel old.
No. I'm old. You're not old. You're young in spirit. but it is technology and certain people. Because I'm in that bracket, Bev and Denise.
I'm dyslexic. I'll claim that.
Yeah?
I'm dyslexic, so hey ho.
I'm dyslexic twice, but you're here now. That's the main important thing.
That is true.
Yeah.
Right. Let me just correct something first of all, so folks know. So Bev Stewart runs a charity called Open Doors. Yeah. She's not a DEI person, but she has lots of views that she can share. And I thought she would be really good simply because one of the things she does, she does many things, but one of the things she does is support projects and that can help young people into employment. So she supports organizations and she'll attend like fairs and she'll bring young people on, and even adults as well, not just young people, adults who may be thinking about a change in their careers and professions. That's one of the things that Beverly does. So I thought she'd be very useful because one of the organizations that I'll be talking about shortly is an organization in Derby, and she's done some work with them. So Bev, introduce yourself, please, my dear.
My name's Bev Stewart. I'm a project manager for Open Doors, but I'm also the founder of Open Doors Forum. We've been going since 2003, and we do projects for young people. We do the HAF project, which is summer schemes, winter schemes, holiday schemes for those with on low income, and on we do food banks. We've done Windrush. We do Windrush celebrations, first generation barrel kids. We just do a lot.
So why be frozen then, Bev? You do a lot of stuff and you freeze like ice. Hello, come back.
Must be.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, you froze.
As you said, technology.
Yeah.
That's the internet connection.
We're gonna have some fun.
Right.
And
okay.
So I just do. We basically are fighting every black issue that there is going. I mean, one thing that you would want to do that I would like is the issue on sickle cell, but that's another thing that we're fighting in Derby. But we fight on many fronts, and obviously DEI is one of the issues again. Thanks to Donald Trump. We just didn't think what's over there is actually affecting us over here, as it does.
Is that because I'm going to send it to voice in my head in a minute? Is that because of the company's an American company or is American run? Is that
no?
right?
It's a British company. The company we're talking about is Rolls-Royce. It's a British company, but they obviously make up the planes and supply the plane engines and stuff like that. And it's been in Derby, gosh, let's see, is it the 40s, 1940s or 50s, somewhere around there? And it is one of the main companies that a lot of the Windrush people came and worked in. And so therefore it's a fairly big company in, well, I would say the main company in Derby. A lot of the workforce are from the black minority groups, so it's going to affect us massively.
So let me give some background first, Bev, so people know why this came up. So Rolls-Royce, as Bev has highlighted, is a large company. Their major UK their headquarters is here in the UK, but they do obviously have other sites out of England. But what they've done now is basically, if you remember, Bev, if you got a job with Rolls-Royce, it's a job for life, right?
It was.
So unless you mess up, it was a job for life. So I was surprised to read in Business Matters magazine, and then in other articles when I found out that Rolls-Royce have decided to comply with the anti-DEI legislation in the United States. So their influence, so the UK, my little city of Derby, has been influenced by Donald Trump, that they have now started themselves in terms of cutting funding and internal support for its employees' inclusion networks. So, for example, like organizations might have a Black Workers Group, or they'll have an LGBTQ group, or whatever it is. It could be a group just for people with disabilities. They have decided in their steps forward to revamp their website. They have taken anything to do with DEI off there, and they're not supporting any groups with any sort of corporate backing at all, which will come as a real surprise. And I think the people who've made a lot of noise are the people from the LGBTQ community, because Derby has been very, very supportive of that as a local authority, but Rolls-Royce have pulled back, and they're not going to support them in any way, shape or form. They're not going to give them any financial backing, and they're not giving them any sort of corporate backing that they would do. So you probably won't find like a flag, like a rainbow flag, for example, on anything, because they've now pulled back. And what they've decided to do is they're just setting up they've launched a what they call like an employee voice network. So anybody who's from those communities that may be covered by the protected characteristics, they can go there. But Rolls-Royce has made this decision. There's 16,000 people in Derby that are employed by them. The management is made up as a lot of white managers. There are a few junior managers in the middle, but the majority of the workforce is actually in the factory-based side of things. That's where they are. I also found out, it was so funny because this is 2025. In 2024, before Donald Trump came in, et cetera, there was salary disparity and also bonus disparity. I didn't know this at all. I wouldn't have known this. They recognized it was a problem, and it's something that they were going to address. They don't need to now. They apparently don't need to do that now, because they've turned their heads round on DEI. It's no longer an issue for them. And so if we must remember, we need to link this to the Equalities Act 2010. That's the framework that we actually work from the Equalities Act 2010. And they've decided that they can make adjustments accordingly. It's very sad, but it's what's going on. And I just don't think, I mentioned it in a group, and I got very, very little sort of communication or thoughts on it. Nobody really wanted to, it's as though people didn't want to talk about it. But I just think that what Beverly does in terms of your work you do with young people, Bev, and parents, etc., I just think that they need to look carefully at what's really going on. And is it necessary? Oh, we lost her again. Is it necessarily a place where we want to encourage our young people to be employed by? That's the conversation.
And for me, all right. So Rolls-Royce, they have to give a reason why they're getting rid of DEI. No, because they no. So originally DEI was brought in to tick a box, or was it to acknowledge pay scale, or acknowledge people of color? Because DEI to me means give black people jobs at first.
Okay, at first, yeah.
So I'm only going by the Windrush generation. So when we first went over in droves here in the UK, obviously we know the stories of that. Black people were refused jobs. There was only offered jobs in specific sectors, so forth and so forth. So there was clearly an Equality Act.
Yeah. So that's changed, but that's changed. Just to say that's changed. So remember, we used to talk about equal opportunities, and then you've got the Equalities Act of 2010, which is enshrined in law. Yeah, okay. So Rolls-Royce, in their policies, if you looked at their former website, all of that would be in there. That would have been in their standard information that all businesses would, but now they've been able to pull that on the fact that this is what Trump is doing, so they've decided to follow suit. But several other companies like McDonald's and people like that, they're also beginning to follow suit too. So yeah.
So Bev, in your role,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In your role, do you have to know? Is there like diversity laws that you have to know, or you have to look out for when you try to get young people into employment? Or you question companies why there isn't specific groups in employment?
one of the things that I always look at is when I'm trying to help young people, because we just did our apprenticeship launch, and we did it on Martin Luther King Day, just the other day, where we got a lot of different organizations, and we targeted it at Black young people, because we're all saying that these are the young people that are not getting the apprenticeships necessarily. So we actually worked with a group of organizations, Derby College, Rolls-Royce was one of them, and so forth. But now with this DEI program coming through, we were highlighting the fact that our young people, as far as the I can say the census was concerned, the percentage of Black people still weren't even getting those particular jobs. So we were trying to work with organizations and companies to try and ensure that they actually get to those numbers. So now with this, I would say, U-turn, which is just recently, it's going to affect a lot of the things that we do. And as Denise has said previously, the companies don't have to give us a reason as to why. So we're actually now on the back foot, so to speak, and we're actually unsure where this is going to take us. Now, our biggest concern with a big organization like Rolls-Royce, yeah, because they're actually introducing this, we're going to also see lots of other companies follow suit. And so basically our answer going to be, we were very restricted as it was in the first place. And now we just don't know where we're going to go with this. I'll be honest. I also know what Donald Trump is also trying to do is cut back on people's workers' rights and stuff like that. So we'll be able to do more about that, because they can't just do certain things because the law will dictate that they can't. But as far as selection process and all those other things that we actually have to do, it's going to be so hard, so much harder. And it's just trying to wake people up as well to say, look, this is what's happening. This is how it can affect you. We need to be proactive. We need to be getting our groups together and seeing how we are going to move forward collectively. And sometimes waking people up is our biggest problem as well within our own community. And that's half of the problem that we have to tackle as well.
There's a message from Miriam. What is DEI? DEI stands for diversity, equality, inclusion. Yeah.
England tends to say EDI, which is still the same. But America says DEI, England says EDI. So it's still the same, equality, diverse, and inclusion. And all it did was make the organization look at the processes and how they're employing people, so that it will look at their unconscious biasness and those kind of things. Where people were getting employed, you were actually training people to say, look, how you look at people, now you do it unconsciously. One of the things that we actually did with Derby City Council, I did a project with them some time ago, is to say, what is the percentage of Black people that you got in your organization? And we didn't just want to look at the Black people, the percentage. We also wanted to look at the percentage in all areas of work. So from your senior management to your middle management to your, because obviously they sometimes meet those quotas, but if you look at where all the Black people are, it's on the lower level. So we're saying there's something wrong with your processes. So we were actually addressing that. But now they're going to just scrap all those programs and just think we don't have to do them. And it also shows you the level of commitment to the DEI programs, that they really didn't, well, if they can just rip it up this quick, that showed you they really weren't buying into it anyway. And that's the sad thing. And what really annoys me most, when they say they want the best person for the job, right? We all know, and everybody knows, and if you ever ask any Black person, wherever they are, whether it's in England, across the waters, in America, wherever, we all know we have to be twice as good to get the same job as our white counterparts. So when people always say they lower the levels to allow black people into these particular roles, I don't know which black person I know or in a particular job that ain't more qualified than their white counterpart. I can only say for myself throughout my working life, I had more qualifications than my manager, always have done.
I want to ask, and I'm going to ask the viewers this. I want to ask you this question, Beverly and Denise. Yeah, how would you feel then that you got offered a job purely to tick a box? Because I will find that even more insulting. I mean, it's insulting enough that you're not getting employment because of the color of your skin or your gender preference or whatever disability. But the fact of you only being like, I watch some of the adverts, yeah, on TV, and I look at them and say, "Oh, that advert," and I look at the demographic of that particular advert. So if it's a family, like you're gonna have a black person, a white person, or friends, they're gonna be different ethnicities and all that kind of stuff, and it should reflect society. But wouldn't you find it more insulting that you got given the job because of to tick a box?
No and yes, and I always do a no and yes answer. But yes, you'd be upset because you may be ticking a box, but no, because why aren't you being represented anyway? Because if you look at most adverts now, and I'll always say this, you'll always see it may say an Asian family, may say a white family. You rarely see a black family. Rarely see. If you see a black man, he will always be with a white lady and biracial kids. Or it will be the other way. You will see a black woman with a white partner. Rarely do you ever see a fully black family. You rarely see black kids looking my color. Still out there, we've still got colorism issues, and it's still, as I can say, the fastest growing race is biracial kids. But it really annoys me that people think we're being given something instead of thinking, why haven't we been represented in the first place? Why, if you look at VE Day, it really irritated me, you would think there was no black people in the war. You would never see, you don't see no black person rolling out with his medals. And we know we fought in the First World War and the Second World War. So when you people say that we're being given this as a tokenism, we should have been there anyway. Why is it when you look at certain, I always look at adverts, I'm sorry, I can't look nowadays without saying, where's the black representative? And if they do black representative, they have to be a high color. Really, very rare do you see a dark skinned person.
I'm gonna go as far as to say, right, look, we live in England, and England, we are a minority in, even though we're born here, but we live in England, and England's gonna project what the majority look like. So the mindset, unless you get, and I agree with you, we should be up there, but they're going to project people who look like them. They're going to 9 times out of 10 employ people who look like them. That's a subconscious bias. Even though we've got, like you said, you've got more qualifications than the managers you work for. That's more than just a tick box. That comes down to that company's thought and heart process. And I don't know how we can change that.
When I say, this is where I used to work. I used to work for an airline many years ago, and I was a senior project manager, analyst. And I trained majority of the managers that I worked for throughout. And when I went for a certain management post, I didn't get it. I got the trainer's post, and I was up there, but to give me certain positions, they weren't doing. And you'll find that in various industries, they just won't give it to you. And I'll always say, because when I used to work for an airline, there used to be a section called operations. It was all white. Black people weren't employed in that area. I was only acquired. And then I used to say I was a little black girl in the corner that was doing all the punctuality figures and saying why people were late and everything. And down to the fact that they thought I was white just because of my name. And I used to be at lots of the conference calls. They didn't. And when the pilots used to come in to see me and bring me presents because of all the things we used to do, they got shocked. They did not expect to see a black woman. And then the present stopped. You never got it again from them. These are the things that happen.
But that's well, we all know that's not a you issue. That's a them issue. That's not us issue. That's a them issue. And
but the point that I'm trying to say is we are excellent in everything that we do. And our parents have drilled that into us. You know, you have to be twice as good. And it's not just in England that we have that saying. We know it happens in America. And this is what I'm saying is we don't get jobs big as tokens. Whenever we do those jobs, we are good at what we do. Think of Hidden Figures. Think of all those.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just add two things to that? So I know a couple of European white HR managers for local authorities, and no matter what you want to say, they've admitted that they still do, and they are directed. So don't be fooled. Often we can end up getting jobs, and it could be that we've got that job simply because they do actually have a quota. They still work with them. They still do it. So it's not necessarily the best person, but they have to take on. I hate it. But it's not always like that, but unfortunately it does happen quite a lot. So that's one thing. I wouldn't like to think if I was doing government work that I was taken on because actually we need to take on 2 more black people, or we need to take on another black woman. I'd hate to be in that situation, but I have to accept, and I accept it does happen. So that's that. And then the other thing, just to say, Quincy, if you think back, do you remember, to me, it's like this, the writing was on the wall. And the reason why I say that, do you remember the whole Liz Truss thing? Liz Truss, in 2019, she was quite clear what she wanted to do with the Equalities Act and the protected characteristics. I think she described them as being fashionable, and she wanted to dignify it, to make it more about the individual. So she was on the thing of let us basically get rid of the Equalities Act 2010 as much as possible, and not focus so much on the protected characteristics, and not to focus on work in the South, but more on getting employment for people in the North, etc. She was the first person that I'd ever come across, and it was a big fear when she became the Prime Minister. I was very uncomfortable, but I'd already said this from before. Do you remember, Queens?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I go back to, we're having this conversation, obviously, because obviously, Beverly, you're working, you recognize the companies are not holding up the end of the bargain by representing young people, and especially people of color. But this is where I think that as a culturally, we have, it's our Achilles heel, because it's like we so want to be accepted culturally to the point that we don't read the red flags and say, you know what, we're not wanted. Let's do our thing. And I know it takes more than one, but it's literally, at what point do we say we need to do our thing? What do you say, Ben?
I'm a person that I still do my own thing as well, and you got to build your own table. I mean, we have a group every so often. We call it Black Table Talk, just to find out what each group is doing out there and to encourage people. I mean, I spend a lot of time encouraging a lot of other groups, and I'm in so many groups that my husband's going to divorce me soon, but I'm forever encouraging people. You got to be getting people to start to see the vision that we can build our own table. We can do our own thing, because without Black people in some of these whether they like us or not, we are the creative industry. We are those ones, because have a look at how many things of black people they keep stealing. They steal everything. Yeah. I even had a design at this workplace where I talked about, and I came up with a through my training work, and the man patented it and stole it from me. And then he sold it to a lot of different other airlines. We are creative people. We have talent. And then until we start to realize they can't do without us. Really? And as much as, and that's why I still will say, and I know what you said, Denise, they have these quotas to fill, but I always know that once we are in there, we shine, and they can't do without us. As much as they like to think they can, they always robbing ideas from the black person. I mean, I've been in so many council meetings, and they come up with ideas and suggestions. You come up with, and they always want you there, and you come up with an idea and suggestion, and before you know it, you can see it on their website. Yeah. They're always stealing from us, always. So they need us. So we need to realize that we can do it ourselves. That's it.
Who sets the parameters of that? You've got to have different groups of people in. Is it the government, or is it down to the company?
So it's government led. It's government led in terms of what they have. They set their targets each year, and they work within the framework. Well, they did work within the equalities framework. This is the thing that is changing.
That is going to change.
Because if you go by if we go by the government, well,
yeah,
the most diverse cabinet was Conservative.
Yeah, well,
if you go by the last government in power, and like, what does this one right currently now? There isn't anybody.
No. So the interesting thing is Kemi Badenoch, Liz Truss, she did some work with Liz Truss, and Liz Truss rated her big time when Liz Truss was the Equalities and Women's Minister. She has a lot to say about Kemi Badenoch and Kemi this and Kemi that. They were very, very tight. So it depends what angle, where we're coming from. I just want to, Mackenzie's not very well. He's got tonsillitis, but he's going to share a thought from a young person's perspective. Come on, son. Come on, they can see you. It's all right with your bonnet. He's got his bonnet on. Come on, quickly, Ken.
Before he comes on, ladies and gentlemen, 07464 019433. I just, what's your view on DEI? What's your opinions about DEI? What does it mean to you? Do you think it is something that it is needed in the current working environment? We should be represented. If you are given a job and it is to tick a box, how would you feel, so to speak? You want to know that you've got an employment purely on the basis of your expertise and your knowledge, not the fact that you're ticking a box. I'm talking to two people right now who I would say are very well skilled in their roles of what they do, but should they really be given that opportunity purely because of the color of this? It shouldn't be, but it's reality. Yeah.
Right, so he's here, but he doesn't want to show himself because he's not very well, and he's got a bonnet on. So talk loud.
Hi everyone. So I've come here to just give my thoughts on this whole situation. So for me, I've been on social media and kind of trying to remain up to date with all that's happening. With regards to DEI and what's happening with Black people in the workplace and around the world. I personally believe that DEI is not really perceived in the best regard by people of other races. DEI is kind of looked at as a tool that aims to compensate for Black people's innate lack of skill in some people's minds. When in actuality, at least in the States, Black women are the most highly educated demographic in the whole of the United States. However, the rhetoric going around is that Black people are foolish, or hooligans, and aren't very well educated. I personally believe that it's something that's needed, especially in the UK, because as you guys have alluded to before, you do have to work 2 times as hard as a black person to get to the same level as a white counterpart. And you know, I myself I'm aware of the challenges of applying for certain jobs, and I'm always asking myself, why do I have to include the fact that I'm black, or adding all these different answer all these different demographical questions. And I've seen how I've been rejected from roles. These aren't complex managerial roles. We're talking entry-level jobs, and then I've walked in to a place where I've applied, and I've seen some of the potential applicants that were chosen over me, and even spoken to some of these people who literally have never worked before, and I'm wondering, why on earth was I turned away when some of these guys only have GCSEs and nothing else? So yeah, it's a very prevalent issue. And I recently had the opportunity to attend Rolls-Royce for work experience, and I was stationed in the aerospace side of the engineering department, and I actually can only recall running into one black person in the whole building in my time there. There might have been a second, but I can say there was definitely one of a black person in the aerospace division. I saw several making their way towards the nuclear engineering department, but in terms of aerospace engineering, there was only one. So again, as someone coming in only for work experience, it's hard, for you to have that drive to be in a place like that, because you don't see someone that looks like you, and you don't feel a pull to that place because you potentially can't relate to it.
Got a message from Tony Stewart. DEI or EDI is based in law, Equality Act, etc. This is there a safeguarding protected characteristics. Unless they change the Equality Act, we have the right. We have to understand the law. Yeah, as you I think you picked up on that earlier on, Denise. I mean, it's just like laws are put into place, and then you say to yourself, well, who's writing these laws? Are the people writing these laws, do they know a Beverly, a Denise, a Quincy? Are those individuals in their periphery to include them? And I agree with Mackenzie. I feel that a form recently, and it's got the breakdown of like Black Caribbean, Black African, Black British. It's nuts. Let's go to the phone lines. Happy belated. Yeah, I left the flowers. Yeah, did you pick them up?
No, didn't get them. Okay, because I was at my spa. My daughter brought me to a spa. Okay. I was surprised. It was beautiful. All right. Up in the city.
All right, that's all good. All right. So you're through to the show. You're Beverly and Denise. What would you like to say about?
Oh, actually, sorry, I didn't realise I was live. The young man who just spoke about being at Rolls-Royce. Yes. Yeah. And saying that efforts aren't always made because you are the only face. You need to turn that around and say, you have made it to get there, so therefore you are the face. You are the face that's going to make the difference. And if you want to work there, you get yourself in there so that you start the pattern. Because that's too much of the things that we do. We say we are not in there. It reminds me of when I was at uni the first time, yonks ago, and they go, well, why are you going skiing? I'm not going skiing. I go skiing because I want to go skiing. But the more that we see our people do things that you don't expect in quote unquote us to be at, is the more we will get our people there. A main example, case in point, Ascot. Gosh, 40 odd years when I was bringing students to Ascot, We were not there. I saw Phil there with Madonna and whoever. Now look, we are 50%, 60%.
Yeah, but you know what?
In the place. So, you just have to make the difference.
I get that, but you see that I have an issue with Ascot because black people are there, but they're in the car park.
No. I'm not talking about that. They are also in the Queen Anne. They are also in the Royal Enclosure. Yeah. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, we are. But I don't see. I don't see that on social media.
Because you don't. Do you do social media in the Royal Enclosure? Hell no. You don't do social media in the Royal Enclosure. You don't do. Even those who go to Queen Anne, they go to the Queen Anne and then they go, you know what? Next year I want to come back. I want to go back to Windsor because it's more fun. Because when you go into Windsor, look how many DJs, your DJs, I don't even know if it's the Supreme DJs, are now actually running. Yeah, they're actually running dancing inside. I know the Queen was deciding in a great, but you're a business that Queen in.
Would you like to comment, Denise or Beverly? I
didn't catch all of that. Sorry.
Well, I can say, like, as far as Rolls-Royce is concerned, my brother worked there for 20-odd, 30-odd years, and he worked at the submarine section and secret acts and stuff like that. And yes, there weren't very many black people there. Where I started in I can say, well, as I said, alluded to years ago when I worked for an airline, the only one or two people that were allowed in the operation were people of color. Majority of us, yeah, there were black people there, but it depends. We were in the accounts world or whatever. So there's certain places that these companies will have you, but only on certain runs. They don't have you in the senior management and the higher levels. And yes, it is a fight to get there. And that's why sometimes it's better if we organize and build our own company, because sometimes we're always fighting to get into the company, the places. Sometimes we need to start learning to build our own. You know, sometimes I am now sick and tired of fighting all the time. And we keep fighting these places. And when they do allow us to come in, they want to always leave us on the lower level. And what they do to us is leave us on the lower level, come and get our ideas, and then present it as their own. And that's what tends to happen a lot. And yes, I know throughout my life, I've been in those places where I am the only black. It's just life. You just keep on going.
I think what Elaine is saying, but she's saying that where you are the only one or the one of a few, you have to own that and make it your own. My only issue with that, Elaine, is that when like I said, we've got Beverly and Denise, and I could tell you, are you familiar with Les Ferdinand?
Yeah.
Right. So are you both familiar with Les Ferdinand?
Footballer, yeah.
Yeah. So Les Ferdinand, ex-QPR legend, Tottenham, Newcastle, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
He done a podcast, and he was talking about after his career, he went back to be the football director for Queen's Park Rangers, where he started, right? And at the time, he came in because Queen's Park Rangers was a club in decline, and obviously they wanted to be picked up. They reached out to him, yeah, because all the fans know him and blah blah blah. So at the time, there was a guy called Chris Ramsey, who was the manager at the time, a black guy, and he happened to have another black assistant. There was about two on the coaching side, 2 or 3 black people, and obviously Les was the football director. So what happened? So that is diverse, right? So you got the white management, that's diverse, yeah. Obviously the owner, but the owner's white. And I'll never forget, Les Ferdinand said that he started to bring people into the admin side of the football, and the players and the management said, what are you only employing black people now? So when you are the minority, that's what. And say if young Mackenzie was to stick with Rolls Royce, as is your brother Beverly. If we employ someone who looks like him, they notice, and they start to say, "Hang on a minute, you're just employing black people."
And as long as you're not doing anything wrong, you're following the rules. You're looking at the spec, the job spec, and they meet the job spec. There's nothing wrong with that. You employ for every one white, you employ one black, or for every one white, you employ two black. But you need to make those doors, keep those doors open for the people. Too often, our people get to a position and they shut the door. Then forget. They don't want too many of we in at that office space and blah, blah. No, because how are you going to get our people up there if you don't make the change? And it's as simple as that. So as long as you're not doing, as long as you're not taking someone like the
it isn't that simple. It isn't that simple. The only time it's simple is if you own the place, because as soon as you're in a management position and you're saying, I'm bringing some of my blacks through, because I've done that before, the people above you, the white managers, will take issues with that, and then they will clamp you down. So it's not that sometimes, yes, I know some people do, as soon as they get into position, they don't want anybody else. But there's a lot of people, you're still dealing with constraints. Unless you own the place, you can't always do what you want. You still have to do according to the bidding. And you'll find that in a lot of industry. We are not the people that necessarily employ people. We're just lucky sometimes you get the job.
I have to say this.
I'm in a position where I employ, and my point is, as long as I'm following the job spec, and that person suits the job spec, and I've done that for the college and places that I've worked as a head of department, as long as that person fits the bill, my priority is to make sure that our people get the job. Now, if that person comes in, I quite right now remember a guy who came in, he was totally disheveled, God knows what he did look like, bringing out some big suit briefcase of God knows what for what. He was completely not ready for this interview. Well, clearly I was not going to bid on his behalf, and he was one of our people. However, there was other people who came for that interview amongst the black and the white. But if I can see a positive within our people, I'm going to give them the heads up, because if we don't give them the heads up, who is going to? Who's not going to pat on our behalf? We have to.
One second, Elaine.
And yeah, just saying, Elaine, thank you for that. I mean, that is true, and it's nice to know that you can do that. But from my experience, is more of Bev's experience, it's not that easy. But I have to say, Quincy, myself, and Mackenzie recently attended an immigration summit, and the company that actually set it together, the majority of the people who are solicitors were black. It was wonderful to see that, to see legal people running that program, because it was run by Jackie Mackenzie, who was a Grenadian black woman. It's the company that she's a partner in. And the majority of the solicitors that were there on that day from her company were black. So, yeah.
It was amazing. All right, look, we have to go for a quick five. We're going to have a break. On the other side, we're going to talk about the father and the police officer and the killing of the officer. The other side. Thanks a lot, Elaine.
Thanks, Elaine.
Lovely day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, Bev, how long have you been doing your role now? How long have you been doing what you're doing, Bev?
Oh, gosh. I've been, since 2003, we've been running Open Doors Forum. Prior to that, I was, as I said, I used to work for an airline, and I worked my way up. But equally, I'll actually just say this as well. I'm going to digress, as I always do. I always think of the power of the pen. And I always remember that they used to always say, why Black people weren't getting a first in a degree. This is just another thought, a first in a degree. And I remember when I went to uni later on in life, and I had some problems with my lecturer. And the problem that I had with her is she didn't believe that I was dyslexic. And the reason she didn't believe I was dyslexic is because we grew up and our parents used to teach you, just get on. You have to put your best foot forward. You don't let nothing hold you back. And I actually found when I had the diagnosis that I was dyslexic, it actually debilitated me, because now I could sit back and say, I know the reason why I have the problems, and I didn't have to work as hard. And the reason why I say the power of the pen, because this lecturer didn't like me, she used to mark my work down. Yeah. And so I came out with a 2-2 as opposed to a 2-1. And this is what I'm saying. These are some of the things that Black people are up against. We're up against it in universities, in our workplace, wherever. And that's why we need programs like DEI and stuff that to actually just give us, I wouldn't even say a level playing field. It's just to give us a leg in, because we are more than qualified. And whichever way people try, they try and keep us down. And equally, when you do get into these industries, you always twice as good as your counterpart. Always. I'm sorry to say.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. But Denise, do you want to add to this, because this is it's a topic.
No. I think we've covered it nicely. Thank you, Beverly.
You're welcome.
Well, I want to say this. Have you noticed though? You, Bev, me and Denise, when we were talking about, I spoke about DEI from a race perspective. We've been talking about it for an hour of race perspective. So you imagine, this is the struggles we're getting as able-bodied Black people, right? Imagine adding to that disabled, because Denise mentioned, yeah, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Disabled people doesn't mean that disabled people cannot do a specific role, because they might be wheelchair bound or have a limb missing. It doesn't mean that they can't do the role. You know what I mean? They can't pick up a phone and talk. I mean, if speech is one of the problems, obviously that becomes an issue. But we assume, and like you said, you are diagnosed dyslexic, and then you probably diagnosed it as an adult. There's probably so much more adults out there who didn't recognize that they had is dyslexia a disability, or is that what would you? I don't know. Is that class as disability?
It is classed as a disability, but sometimes I list it, sometimes I don't. But it just depends how you want to view it. And as you said, there's so many different groups out there that are actually going to be affected. And I don't know.
Because my thing is this. All right. At what point does it stop the diversity then? So we can acknowledge from the civil rights movement, Black people in America, and obviously here as well, wanted equal rights for voting and being in the same places, right? So obviously on the back, I believe DEI was created on the back of Black people. I think that LGBTQ was the Stonewall. All these things were brought in on the back of Black people. That's just me personally. And as much as they deserve to have be treated equally, but then from a business perspective, I'm going to say, at what point does it stop? Because you can say, right, we've got a Black person, we've got a gay person, we've got a disabled person. Right, so now there's a trans person, is there a short person? At what point does he stop? Because I reckon Donald Trump, what he's probably done, he said, you know what, there's too many groups, get rid.
I think from a disabled point of view, I think sometimes inclusion is important, because you have to make some allowances for people with disabilities. Some of the groups, I can sort of like argue the point it's not necessary, but it's going to be a difficult one, because now they're just throwing everything out. And so everyone's going to be left fighting their own corner. as far as black people are concerned, for me, as for a race issue, after the Race Equality Act and everything else, as far as I'm concerned, with DEI, black people are still on the bottom run anyway. Yeah. And for me, I don't know if Denise agrees with me, right? Black people have always struggled. We are the ones that start the fight, and we ensured and got all these things in, but it's all the other groups that get the best advantage from it. I don't know. Do you agree with that, Dee?
Oh, well, I've had those experiences. We had those experiences in Derby. So yes, of course, that is definitely the case. We put in the hard work, but it's others that have definitely benefited over us. That's a fact. Yes, most definitely.
Let's read out this last text. Bev, I don't know if you've got to go, but I would like to get your opinion. Are you familiar with the black father who ran over the police officer in America?
I was seeing some of it, but I'm not familiar with it, not fully.
Okay, then I'm gonna bring people up to speed in that. Are you familiar, Denise?
I think so. I think that's just the one with the black officer. What did he do? The guy that killed, that not ran over the police officer.
Junior, whose son was murdered.
Yeah.
But there's a footage I'm going to play, and I want everybody to see it.
Okay.
I want people to come back from the FM, and there's been developments, but what has got me is, for me, is the gentleman in question, the father in question. How there's been times where, if black officers wasn't there, I reckon he would have been dead. They would have found him. But I'm going to play the clip, and I would like to get your opinions. Voice of Man, can you put Tony's clip up? Not clip. Tony's email. I've got first class honors. Tony Stewart. Thanks a lot, Tony Stewart. He's really representing in the chat. I've got first class honors. All of my lectures had issues, but I had to grind harder. We have to let our work do the talking. It's hard to put us down if we are doing high quality and a high level and a level of work. So yeah, if like I said, what Tony's saying, if our levels of work is high quality, it's hard to put us down. But as we all can speak from experience, they will find a way.
Mm-hmm.
They will always try and find a way, and at some point you got to say to ourselves, you know what, boy, we need to do our thing, and that's all I'm saying. Is we need to do our thing. But before we bring in the next topic, before we head out of here, because I do want to get people's opinions about this. Are you both? You're both familiar with Smokey Robinson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know he's been accused of sexual assault.
Yeah. He's released a new album, and I played one of his songs last week, and then or the week before. Then I read about that. Yeah.
I just yeah. Many moons ago.
Yeah.
This particular this has been brought up, and it's by quite a few women, maids back then. Obviously, that coincides with P. Diddy trial was started already as well. All right, let's go to the phone lines here. 1 second. Good afternoon, James. Good afternoon. Can't hear him. James. I'll call him back. We're gonna come back off the FM now. Let's go to the phone lines here again. I will try James before we go into our next topic. 07464019433 is a telephone number. Hello, James. James.
Yes.
What would you like to say, sir?
I think the father's response is almost typical to what would have happened in the States, where white people took on justice. They didn't bother to wait to go to court. if you're black and they thought you committed a crime, the Emmett Till situation comes to mind, right? They weren't interested in waiting for the law to and all legal proceedings, and I think that guy just basically just said, you know what, that's my child. And some parents are like that. If you harm my child, that's your life. And I think that's the guy's mentality. That's the father's mentality.
Well, I tell you what, James, I'm gonna play a clip right now, because I don't know if anybody's seen it, but you will hear it. There's been incidences where, to give you, James, let me call you back, James, because you.
Okay.
And then, better point, right? Thanks a lot. So look, ladies, there's been specific moments in this particular case. The guy's name's Rodney Hinton Jr., right? Where he, let me give you a history first. Voice in my head, could you get the clip up so we let people know? Rodney Hinton watched his son being murdered, shot, right? Before you don't play it yet, and he watched his son being shot, him and his family, shot in the back, right? Shot in the back. At the time, he was literally, he was in distress, like all the members of the family. He left early. He left distressed early. The day later, he decided, not to say he decided, the day later, he got into a car and he basically mowed down a traffic police, random traffic police, retired traffic police, yeah? Now, this is where it gets sticky, and I want people to watch this, yeah, and listen to this lady. Where it gets sticky, there's a scene in a court, which I think is going to be iconic now, where he gets brought into the court and he's in chains, right, Denise? And he looks every single one of those police officers in their face, but he looks at, there's two black women in there, right? We could say diversity, but he looks at them longer, yeah? That's number one, right? Number two is his brother and his family, but his brother specifically have come in to support him, yeah, as any family member would. And he turns around while his brother's in there and he sees his family because they wave, and his family are not allowed in that court, but there's about 30 officers in there, all trying to intimidate him. And he gives his family the salute. But again, officers surround his brother, and there was a black woman who was trying to calm down the brother. And clearly the brother's emotional, because what he's saying is, well, I can't support my brother. Yeah. And he didn't say it indirectly, but what they're saying is, as officers, we're going to support our deceased officer and we're going to be in this court, but you can't support your brother. Right? And what I'm about to play to you right now, and for people who are watching and who are listening, there's another incident of another black officer who literally walks into the lift. And I reckon he just walked in there, you know, because he saw what was about to happen. Let's play the clip, please.
Officer here who is standing in the gap to make sure that nothing that should not happen to Rodney Hinton Jr. happens. And the authority that he took in that elevator is how you're supposed to do it, because he stepped in and gave eye contact and said, I wish you would, with his eye contact. We appreciate you for stepping in and not stepping in and having your back to them and said, oh, I was just getting on the elevator to get off. He gave eye contact that said, find somebody else to play with. And we just want to make sure that you understand, we appreciate you. This is what I'm talking about. Thank you for stepping in the gap. We see you and acknowledge you, because the body language that changed within that elevator ride is very telling. It's very telling, because if you're not being watched, what are you willing to do is really being seen in this elevator. Because what was y'all trying to do? Because y'all body language got energy when that man said, look me in the eye. All of you. What was the plan?
Right. Denise, it actually wraps it up in a way to a police report indirectly, because we speak about how black officers, how important their role is within the police environment. And if, as black people, if we get arrested, it's like you want to be not arrested, but you want to be around people who look like you, who can identify with you, who can understand you. And there's been 2 incidences where I would say, if you, first of all, Rodney, Mr. Hinton, is in the elevator with the 2 white officers, yeah, and then and if you look at their faces, it ain't pretty. It's like if that door shuts, there's going to be some kind of, we can't prove it, but when that door shuts, you know something potentially could happen, right? And it was like, you know, when you walk into a lift late, like you run in to catch the lift, that black officer, when I say he stepped into the lift, and as that lady said, he literally looked the officers in his eyes, and he, like, and their whole body language changed. So I don't know if he was an officer of authority, an officer who said, "Oh, look, I'm prepared to lose my job," but there's been incidences where the same gentleman, Rodney Hinton Jr., has been protected by these officers, and I do believe there are black officers, and we just had correctional officers being let off for the murder.
That's what I was going to say. There's 3 black guys. There's 3 black officers. Yeah.
Ask him if he's heard about the Robert Brooks story.
Robert
Brooks. Have you heard about that one?
Remind me.
So he was taken into custody. I believe it was in New York, I think it was, and he was beaten to death by the officers in custody. This was literally just December of last year, and it's starting to come to light now. Like the footage was released.
Oh, is that the because the one we were just talking about? Those were correctional officers, weren't they?
Yeah, that's the one that I'm talking about. Yeah.
I haven't seen this. So I suppose what I'm asking the listeners, and we're just look, we're parents, yeah. We talk the talk when we say, if anyone troubles my child,
yeah,
that's it. They're dead. We talk that talk, and I suppose I would say 95, if not more, mean that. I want to ask you, Denise, and I'm asking listeners, 07464019433. Is that, how would you look at Rodney Hinton Jr.? Do you look at him as a murderer, or you look at him as an honorable father? Because I can't believe there are, for what he did, it was an innocent man. But do you understand why he did what he did? Denise, do you understand why he did what he did?
In terms of protecting his, okay, yeah, I do.
He didn't protect his son because his son. But what he did, yeah. he literally retaliated.
Yeah, made the point.
Do you understand what he did? What he did?
To a certain extent, because I'm trying to try and put myself. I try and do that. I think put myself in somebody's shoes. And yes, I think a lot of us do say that we'll do whatever we can to protect our children, or for justice, because we may think justice is not going to be served in the right way. So we say we'll take things into our own hands for our own personal satisfaction, sort of thing. I do to an extent understand, because I think I could potentially do something like that. I'm not killing, but I'm going to fight, because sometimes we know justice isn't going to go our way. So yeah, potentially.
This is how, boy, I don't know. Like, I've got some friends who live in America, family who got family living in America. I don't know how I can live in America right now. I mean, it's bad enough living over here, but yeah. I do not know, like, to the point. I pick up on this, like, the race element how they trying to spin this to say that he killed an innocent officer, and he was innocent. He was innocent, but I'm gonna say to the point of as innocent as he was, he's a part. He's a part of a system which killed his son.
Mm-hmm.
So what his team are doing, they are pleading insanity. They are looking for insanity. At the time, he was insane. He was insane.
Okay.
So to pick a random police officer,
yeah.
He was, and you know what? I get it, but then I'm thinking to myself, say if that was my daddy who killed.
Okay. Mackenzie, what was your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so just for something so the viewers can understand the how big the situation is. They removed his post from GoFundMe, so that was removed after pressure from police groups that pressured GoFundMe to remove his fundraiser.
That's right. They removed GoFundMe.
And the state is trying to pursue the death penalty for him now.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, me personally, I'll say it like this. So I compare it to I know he's not black, but the Luigi Mangione case, which I'm sure everyone's aware of. Yeah.
Who killed the insurance man?
Yeah, the insurance man. Yeah. So Luigi Mangione had his own health complications. I think like a botched surgery with his back. But he actually, most people don't realize, he actually wasn't insured by United Healthcare. And this is now where people need to wake up and understand. Yes, he himself was impacted by the poor healthcare system in America, but because he wasn't himself personally affected by the United Healthcare CEO, in actuality, these two situations are they're connected, and you're starting to see now that the way that people viewed and supported Luigi Mangione's case, despite the fact that he's allegedly killed someone, the overwhelming support, they've raised over $1 million on the GoSendMe platform for him for his legal defense case. And they look at him and they see a white man who's come from a good family, quite well off, and I'd say because he's not black, he's not perceived as a thug, because that is how they perceive you in America. If you're black, and this is the kind of thing that you do. Rodney Hinton Jr. has the way they're going about this. They're trying to make it seem as though he acted out and he just lost his head. And I think in my personal opinion, it was calculated. It wasn't about necessarily him taking the life of the person who ended his son's life, but rather to send a message, quite like Luigi Mangione did, because he himself was not registered under the United Healthcare system. But Rodney Hinton Jr., he took the life of another officer, to send a message that he himself and black people, shouldn't stand by and see these injustices, just carry on.
So let me ask you this, right? We got some phone calls coming. Have Rodney Hinton Jr., Luigi, have they set a precedent? Right? And was it James?
Yes.
Has Rodney set a precedent?
Not really, no. And I'll explain why. So going back earlier to the temporary loss of insanity, that plea by many judges said it won't work because he had ample time to think about his actions. Yeah, he had ample time. It wasn't, although it may have triggered him immediately then and there. If he was immediately triggered and had he assaulted a police officer in the station then and there, you could then allow for that because you can tie the emotional distress of what the father saw being too much, and he took it out on the first officer that he saw. Right. So that's immediate. He's not really set the precedent because also the use of the police as witness intimidation. Because I don't know if you've seen comments regarding that particular video of the police. People were saying, "Wait a second, how did all these officers get time off to appear at a court for something that they were not party to? They weren't a witness to it." He said the only time that you would get that is if some of the officers were witness, or maybe 2 or 3 of them were close colleagues. But you don't need virtually the whole department turning up there for that. And yes, also intimidating his brother. Right, because the brother was behind a glass wall.
That's
so
right.
the brother couldn't do anything other than support. Right, so the brother wasn't a threat, and no doubt he would have been checked for any weapons going into the place. So he wasn't a threat. Will similar things like this happen? Possibly, because if people have had enough rage, that can happen. There can be similar things happening like that, and also the states have an open carry policy with guns. So that's even more. The problem with this situation with the father is that the son was involved in a police chase with 2 or 3 other accomplices in a stolen car, and guns were present. So it's not a clean case. It's not as if the son was in a car with friends who were innocent going about their business and was stopped by the police, and then that happened. So that's the issue now with the case. Whilst the father has a right to grieve, the problem is the son is in a tainted situation. His dead son's in a tainted situation because a crime was involved prior to his son being shot. So,
but it wasn't a crime. It was the car was reported stolen. But it was. Yeah. But we get to find out he missed a payment.
Right, but also they fled. They were all fleeing the car. So people are now saying, well, what happened if they managed to toss the gun? Because the only thing that they could have got that if the gun is an unlicensed firearm, then that's trouble on top of the car. Whereas you being a passenger in a stolen vehicle or a vehicle with you're innocent of any crime because the car's not in your name. You're an innocent party.
All right, look, we're going to run out of time, James. But I think this is a topic I will probably bring up again tomorrow. And there's other things I'm going to bring up as well. But this case ain't going away for now.
Right. Well, I mean, you've got this case. You also got the case with a woman calling by the end. You've got that. You've got the Carmelo Anthony. You've got a lot happening that's racially toxic at the moment in the States, all within a narrow time frame.
Yes, it's crazy. All right, James. Thanks a lot, mate. We've run out of time. Okay. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show. Ardeni's going to say and Mackenzie's going to say bye. I'm back tomorrow. I'm letting you right now. I'm going to let you know now. We are going to be talking about immigration. Obviously, Keir Starmer made his speech today regarding immigration, and we will be talking about that tomorrow. Denise, what would you like to say before we depart?
I'd like to say thank you for joining us. Thank you, Bev, for joining us earlier. That was very useful. Good conversation. I'm interested about tomorrow's show about immigration. That because some things been going on, and I watched an interesting documentary, and some people haven't been very honest in terms of helping people to get to the UK. Have a situation.
I'm going to call you after. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, cool.
Because I've actually gone to the website and I've looked at the people leaving to people coming in, and the number of boats. It's actually declining. People coming in, but there's this rhetoric that we get to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm out. Take it easy.
Bye.